The first time most players saw the Darkness ships was all the way back in 2017 at the end of the Red War campaign, when Gol managed to gain control of the light and become a light-infused god. It was then when the Traveler awakened for the first time and defeated Gol with its beam of light. The beam of light flashed past the planets of the solar system and, most importantly, past a group of pyramid ships, awakening them also as they turned towards our solar system. But the origins of these ships goes much further back, even before the release of Destiny 1 in 2014. Our first look at the pyramid ships was in a piece of concept art showing the 5 original enemy races. As time went on and players started seeing all the races in game, there was always one missing, the Darkness race. And people started to wonder what they would be, and started calling them the Veil. Before we get started with the rest of the video, I'd like to say a thank you to everybody who's watching my videos. My editors and I have been working very hard over the last couple of months to grow my channel and bring you guys the content you want to see. As someone who's been doing TikTok short form videos for 3 years, I have really enjoyed making these longer videos and being able to really explore deeper into the lore and universe of Destiny and bringing it all to you. If this is your first time visiting my page, welcome. I'm glad to have you support me. And because of all your support, I've managed to finally monetize my channel, which means I can put more time, effort, and passion into these videos. If you would like to become a member of this page, I have some wonderful options which you can find for yourself by clicking the join button on my page or at the bottom of this very video. We have different tiers ranging from priority comments on videos to member shoutouts at the end of the videos, which you will see on this video, to your very own personal members only lore Q&A videos. Okay, but let's get back to the video you all came to watch. In this piece of concept art, we can see all 5 original enemy races. 4 of those were released at the start of Destiny 1, but we're going to focus on this last section, the one that did not appear until more recently. We can see a large fog of smoke, a single figure with a white head and a dark body, with several triangles above the figure's head. This one section of the concept art image sets the Black Fleet and even the Witness in motion. And yes, while it may be true that Bungie wasn't 100% sure where they were going with the whole darkness thing from the start, this does show that they had a vague idea from the very beginning of Destiny what the enemy of the Traveler would look like. In looking at this early concept art, we can see their ideologies are displayed with everyone's favorite school subject, math. I know a lot of you all are watching this video most likely after you just spent all day behind your desk staring blankly at a whiteboard or ignoring your boss's third request to put a cover letter on your TPS reports. So I am sorry, but we are gonna get into some geometry. We all know the Traveler is a sphere, and the Darkness ships are pyramids. It's pretty basic knowledge, I'm gonna be honest, if you've been playing Destiny for a while. I don't know how you wouldn't know the Traveler was a sphere if you've played this long. But to get more specific, the pyramid ships are tetrahedrons, a shape comprised of 3 triangles. The interesting thing about these 2 shapes is they play into the philosophy of their respective ideologies. A sphere is the most complex shape according to Euclidean geometry, while a tetrahedron is the simplest. It's all based on how many edges they have, to be honest. One has a finite amount of edges, while the other has an infinite amount of edges. And let's just say that's a lot of edges. The Traveler's whole philosophy is to bring more complexity to the universe, while the Witness wants everything to stay the same forever, to be simple. I do want to get to the point of this video, the disturbing truth inside each pyramid, but I want to do an overview of the Black Fleet because I find them fascinating. And there is a possibility that some people watching this video haven't done the deep lore dives into the ships and would love to learn about them. And this is including new players and new people interested in the story of Destiny, because there is so much mystery in each ship. They may seem mostly empty, and I know a lot of people think that this is a cop-out by Bungie, but I'd like to share what I believe they really are. There are a total of 5 different pyramid ships that we've stepped inside, and 2 of them have been raids. Technically 6 ships if we count all Black Fleet ships because of Callus's, but due to his inflated ego, he just had to be different and was low riding around in the solar system in a floating sphinx of himself. But we have been inside Rolk's, Nezerax, and the Witness's personal ships. There are two ships that we've been inside that we aren't sure whose they are, the European one and the one at the bottom of Titan. But I do have a theory about both of them that I'll get into a little bit later. The Titan ship may have been Xivu's, but she was not a disciple. And we only know it was a temple to offer her tributes and tithes, not that she had control over the ship. And with the presence of the Tormentor boss, it's hard to say when Xivu took over that ship, because Tormentors did not exist before the events of Lightfall's story, even in canon. And there's also the thing that Titan disappeared for several years until we brought it back in Root of the Nightmares raid, so I do not think this is a ship that Xivu Arath always had control over. The very first pyramid ship to arrive in the solar system was the lunar one, the home of Nezarec. This is the ship that once held the Veil before Savathun killed him and stole the paracausal entity and hid it on Neptune. This is also the entire reason the Hive set up shop on the moon. They knew there was a great power, but they were not allowed entry, so they camped outside of it for hundreds of years like hippies waiting to see a Fish concert in the early 2000s. They must have been really upset when a couple of stale bugs were given passage into Nezarec's chambers. The only ones that were allowed inside the ship before us were a couple of fallen, including Mythrax.
Centuries ago, when the Elixni first came to this system, when your father was just a hatchling, our people had nothing. So, when they discovered Nezarec, disciple of the Witness, entombed in the lunar pyramid, they harvested its dark power for themselves and for the future of our people. Mythrax inherited one of these relics, and its power ensnared him. He sought more.
The next pyramid we go inside is the one hanging out on Europa. This is one of those that we aren't sure who it belongs to, but I do have a theory. I believe there is a possibility that this ship belongs to Clarity Control. Now, I will go over my theory a lot deeper in the next video, but this makes the most sense to me. There isn't a lot of lore on this ship. We know it helped us use stasis. We also know that the Cabal, most likely under Callus's orders, were trying to find darkness artifacts and attempted to destroy the large veiled statue. During Witch Queen, we enter Rolk's pyramid ship. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this one is my favorite pyramid ship that we've gone inside. There is just so much happening inside this ship, not even counting what the raid encounters are. This ship is a breeding factory, world-ending weapon, a museum, and a mad scientist laboratory. Rolk used the giant worm Zeta, that he kidnapped by the way, to create and maintain the hive population as well as power the upending, his world-ending weapon. In case you are unaware of how he created worm larvae, he cut off pieces of Zeta's body. That's it. Like he would go and take a knife. I mean, I'm assuming. We don't really know if he physically did it himself, but we do know that that's how the worms were created, by cutting off parts of her body until they formed their own worm identity. The upending, which you see very close when we do the final encounter and fight Rolk for himself and we fight above it, used to be powered by the sun of Rolk's planet. But after its destruction, he needed a new power source. So Rolk allowed it to siphon off Zeta's worm god powers. Rolk also experimented on different races, went all mad scientist. We see all over the raid different beings with worm larvae poking out where their heads should be. Rolk wanted to see what would happen if he tried to create a new race like he did with the Hive. It worked one time, the Caretaker. But Rolk isn't just a weirdo who cuts gods and shoves worms down people's throats. He's also an admirer of the arts. Looking around, we see displays of unique weapons Rolk has British Museumed into his home. Is British Museumed a verb? Okay, well, it is now. I do find it impressive he went into the Vault of Glass and left with the Aegis. There's also paintings of his home planet, which I believe due to his arrogance is to remind him how much better he is now. The second to last ship we go inside is the Witness's personal ship. There is no reference to this in-game or written lore, but the name of this ship is Essence. The reason we know the ship's name is because it was found in the files for the Triumph when doing the Rooted Nightmares raid. We don't know a lot about this ship. We do know the Witness controls the rest of the fleet from here, and we know he has a room full of planets he messed with. Whether they are actual planets or just representations of them remains to be seen, because when we move the planets in the raid, we get the ones taken back from us in reality. So there seems to be some power over the placement of the planets in this room. We can't really know for sure what all this ship has in store since we only really see it when it's destroyed, and the entire raid is just a giant circle. The first and last encounter are in the exact same location. That leaves us with the final pyramid ship, the one at the bottom of Titan's ocean. We know from the deep dive exotic mission that currently it is being used as a temple to offer Xivu tribute. But like I said earlier, I do not think this is her personal pyramid like Rolk and Mythrax. The only hive god that was even considered to be a disciple was Savathun. I do think we can kinda tell whose ship this was though. Whether they are still alive or not, we don't know, and that remains to be seen. So this is the ship that messed with Titan's gravitational pull, caused tidal waves high enough to destroy all the buildings on the moon, turning the moon of Titan from more spherical to egg-shaped before snapping it back. But who was this disciple? We know that every glaive we have found before Season of the Seraph was owned by a disciple or a potential disciple. It's mentioned on the Judgment of Kalgaroth that the weapon manufacturers started making their own, which is why we're seeing a lot more come in game. And while it is true, they were given to new disciples by Rolk as a rite of passage. Rolk had Lubre's Ruin, Savathun would have had the Enigma, and Nezarec had Nezarec's Whisper. But there is one glaive that was kept on Neomuna in a display that most likely once belonged to an unknown disciple, Winterbite. And while we did get this after Season of the Seraph, the use of this glaive was before and during the collapse. And we can look at the lore on Winterbite itself. Neomuna Historical Archive. What was that? We got hit. Engine 7 is down. We can't take another one of those. This is a colony ship. Hard a port. Put Hyperion between us and that. And flood the EM spectrum with Shioma. The round that hit us. It's moving. What? He's right. I'm reading arms and legs. It's attacking Engine 6. I'll scramble a squad of Cloudwalkers. They can sit up and the maneuvers I'm pulling will fling them into space, even with mag boots. Bringing point defense cannons about. It's only 3 meters across. Sure you can hit that without peeling us open? Kinda have to. Captain, firing. The thing just took a 15mm burst to the chest. Again, firing. It's clear. Mostly. Looks like it left a... Is that a spear through our bulkhead? Not sure. It's some kind of exotic matter, spitting all my sensor pings back at me, amplified like a... We can figure it out later, dear. Sanchez, how's the ECM? Not great. Whatever they're using to coordinate, it's not electromagnetic. Getting something weird though. Weirder than the 3-meter hitchhiker knocking on the hull? Maybe. You remember those Vex signals you discovered? On occasion, Carlo. There's a big one. Reoccurring. Coming from outer system. Think it's a distress signal. Ignore it and get me... No. Bring us back around into the moon's shadow. Maya. We need to break line of sight. I can feed the Vex signal into that thing, skewering us, use it like an amplifier, and might trick these attackers into thinking we're a Vex ship. It's a tight beam transmission. We'll have to ride it back to the source to keep that up. You sure you want to meet whatever makes a Vex cry for help? Enemy of my enemy. We might just find a safe port in this storm. Now this ship is a colony ship, and this is the ship that would eventually go and colonize Neptune and become the Neomunans. And something attacked the ship as it was leaving Titan during the collapse. It left its weapon in the side of the ship as it attacked. And whatever it was large. 3 meters across, or almost 10 feet for those that like freedom units. We do not know how it was situated when they fired the cannon at this monstrosity and described it as 3 meters across. If it was hunched over, that would make it 10 feet tall when standing. And to put that in perspective, that is around half the height of Savathun, who is 21 feet tall. But if it was standing when it was 10 feet wide, that makes this thing around 40 feet tall, or twice the height of Savathun. Which kind of makes sense that it would be so large, given that Winterbite looks like a one-handed weapon. It's not shaped like any of the other glaives we see, so I believe this weapon was used by a missing disciple so large that they could use this weapon as a dagger, where we would have to use it like a glaive. We can even see from looking at the hilt of this blade that it looks like the grip is further down from the blade itself. So now that we've gone through each of the pyramids that we've personally gone inside, what about the others? There are hundreds, if not thousands, of ships. So does each have a disciple? No, probably not. I would say that there's a good chance that there are a lot more disciples out there, but I do not think there are enough for each ship. Currently, we only know of 2 other disciples in lore, and that's Uin, a bug-like alien that Rolk kinda considers his son, and an unnamed disciple mentioned in the Imperial lore book. We know that the ships were created before the Witness was even a thing. The race that would become the Witness built them before flying out and retrieving the veil, as we see in the Witness origin cutscene. So that means that at one point in time, each ship did have its own captain and crew. So what are the ships now? Sure, they are giant military vessels meant to show a strength of force in numbers, but I think they are more than just that. I think they are tombs. Let's take a look at the section of the Witness origin cutscene real quick.
And so it fled their world. But they would not be deterred. Having witnessed the truth in the darkness, they used its binding power to merge themselves into the salvation they craved. Thus began the Witness's pursuit, its campaign to impose meaning on a meaningless universe. One that is nearly at its end.
The Witness fused their minds together, leaving behind husks that were once its body. And if we take a closer look at the planet room, we can see heaps of bodies on the ground and stacked by the walls. I believe these weird statues are the former bodies of the Witness's people. I do not know if every single one is, but we can see the shapes of arms, cut off faces, legs, bodies, and more. The bodies have to be millions, if not billions, of years old. It would make sense that they would be petrified with sections not being cared for and falling into disrepair. I believe each ship is a mausoleum to who they once were. Could this be a way for the Witness to remember what civilization was like before they were one? Maybe it's a way of honoring their old culture. We always see lots of decorations on these ships. Plates, cups, urns, and more. And when we look at pyramids, we always get the idea of burial, thanks to Egyptian culture and the Great Pyramids, who used pyramids to honor and celebrate their dead. And it makes sense for the Witness to preserve what it once was in a perfect state, because the Witness doesn't want to kill the universe. It's just kinda a boomer, tired of having to constantly learn new things. I am mostly joking, but that really is what the final shape actually is. It's not to destroy the whole universe and kill everything. They just want everything to stay the same forever and never change. I will go over what the final shape is in more detail in another video, so stay tuned for that one, because I do think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding on what the Witness's goal is. Before I end this video, I wanted to add a few things that are associated with the Black Fleet. We've gone over what the actual pyramid ships are and what the possibility of them being tombs, but there's a lot of architecture and artifacts and weapons that are associated with the Black Fleet. The first one of those are the Darkness Cruxes, those floaty splinter things you see on Europa and other places. Those are most likely used for spying and intel. They started showing up in droves after Morningstar crashed into the planet during the Deepstone Crypt raid. They also seem to have other uses such as hacking abilities seen in Lightfall, and shielding someone as seen in Wellspring. But while I'm talking about Morningstar, can we just take a moment and really look at the Deepstone Crypt raid? The name of the raid is Deepstone Crypt, and we barely actually spend any time in the Deepstone Crypt raid. The only real times we're in Deepstone Crypt raid is security and half of Atrax. That's it. Only 1.5 encounters is actually in Deepstone Crypt. 2.5 encounters are not in Deepstone Crypt, but it's called, the raid is called Deepstone Crypt. I don't know. That's always been weird to me. Like, how are you gonna name a raid and then we don't spend all of our time there? That would be like going into Vault of Glass, titled Vault of Glass raid, and only doing oracles and like Heart of Templar, and then going somewhere else to do the rest of the raid. I don't know. That's always bugged me. It's always bugged me. Just a little pet peeve of mine. Yeah, okay. Back to the video. Okay. All right. That was, I went off a tangent, but we're gonna go back. So, some may think they are the same, but there's a difference. The next one I'd like to talk about is pyramid scales. Some people think they're the same as the Cruxes, but they are shaped differently. They have a hexahedron parallel to the ground as like, quote unquote, a head, and then a singular tetrahedron sticking out of the bottom towards the ground. These seem to be patrol units of the Black Fleet and can even infuse darkness into areas, as we saw during Season of the Arrivals. The next one we see a lot in Witch Queen and Lightfall, and those are pyramid spikes. You know those spinny top looking things that you have to shoot during activities? Well, they seem to be for securing an area, because we always have to shoot them to progress or to move forward. And I'm saving the best for last, which is Bungie's favorite Black Fleet weapon. And it has to be Bungie's favorite thing, because I don't think the community likes it. And that's a Resident Splinter. You may know it as Escorting the Dorito, which I don't think most of us even liked during Witch Queen, and they brought it back and ruined Lake of Shadows. These are super weapons, and we've used them several times to blow things up. So when you see them around the throne world, that's basically the Scorn trying to nuke it. Now, I want to take this time to give a quick shout out to my first 3 members with the best muffin or above tiers. And that would be Prince Mav, one of my head Sherpas in my Discord, Son of Mitch, one of my Discord admins, and Pulse, a very loyal member on Twitch. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something new about the Black Fleet. There is so much in Destiny lore books that a lot of people never have had a chance to experience. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more videos. Thank you everyone, and remember, hunters never die.